Hey y'all, it's Diana again. If I could sing, I'd be dangerous. Well, as you can see from the title, tonight's episode is about why I came out publicly about being trans. And first off, I always refer to myself as trans, not transgender. I will throw in transsexual once in a while, but I really consider myself intersexed, and intersex does fall within the umbrella of transgender. But the reason I dislike the word transgender so much is it is an umbrella term that most people do not even realize it's an umbrella term. It's an umbrella term that covers transvestism, cross-dressers, transsexuals, intersex, anybody within the gender variance the word transgender covers. But it in no way means that they're all the same. So my situation may not be the same as your situation, but we're all under the category of transgender. And it confuses a lot of people. It thinks that we're all the same, but we're in different degrees. Maybe this person hasn't got to the same place this other person is, when maybe they never will. They never want to. They're not the same. This is my own personal opinion. If you attack me, I will block you, because this is my channel and I have a right to my own opinion. So, the reason I came out on the internet, now when I first was on the internet, I used a name that was not my own, because I was trying to protect myself and my privacy. But because of a pioneer, Lynn Conway, she said that us older transitioners needed to try to help those that are coming along to see what they can become. They can see the success stories, the ones that have come before them, and see what they can be when they get older. That was the main reason that I was prompted to come forward. So here I am. I would never have done it when I was younger. When I first moved to Mississippi, I was in my late 30s, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't living in stealth. I was living in a community where everybody knew me, everybody knew my past, and it was difficult. It still is not exactly a perfect situation, because I prefer people just to know me as Diana. I don't like them to put me into this box and say, this is Diana the transsexual. This is Diana that used to be a man. I don't like that. I like this to be Diana. So, but when I moved here, my family's here. My mother was born and raised here in Mississippi and left here in 1943. And I brought her back here in 1993, 50 years later. And it was difficult. But because I was out, I was more open to becoming out online. It was easier for me to think about doing that. I have people that I knew in the past, other trans people, who are very, very negative about me doing this. They say that, that I have went against our philosophy that, you know, we live our lives as women and nothing else. And that's the way they are still doing. And they won't even be on my Facebook friends list because they're afraid people will associate them with me because I am basically out. And that's kind of hurtful. These are people that, and I've known since I was 18 years old, you know, I transitioned with. We went through the same things. But that's all we lived for, was being women, and we never planned to ever be outed, you know? Most of us lived, worked, and married as women, and we never told anybody. That's not to say nobody knew, but we didn't discuss it. It was never talked about. If somebody knew, it's because they knew somebody that knew somebody. But we would never admit it. But for me to admit it and out myself, they think is the most horrible thing for a person to do. And the one person, and I'll call her Anastasia, that's not her name. The last time I actually spoke to her, I was in the process of writing a few chapters in my book. And she says, if you mention me with the name Anastasia, because I've always liked that name. So I'll say Anastasia. She's one of the main ones who doesn't want any association with me. I'm pretty sure eventually she'll see this video and she'll hear and remember the name Anastasia. But she won't like the things I'm fixing to say about her. When I first met her, she was a drag queen living as a boy and working in a whorehouse for drag queens. All the customers knew they were drag queens. Wigs, hip pads, the whole 9 yards that a drag queen wears. And she lived as a boy. She had no plans of transitioning. And I moved into an apartment next door with my best friend, Jeanette. And Jeanette and I worked on different shifts. So Anastasia and I started hanging out. And eventually we moved in together because we both worked day shifts and became good friends. And because of her association with me, she decided to start transitioning. She got on hormones. She was a tiny thing. She was about 5'4". And it did not take long for the hormones to beat the crap out of her, honey. She turned that little body into that of the most beautiful woman's body I've ever seen. I was extremely jealous. Not that it done much for her face, you know. And she even said herself, she says, but if we could combine your face and my body, we'd be one perfect woman. And that's the truth. I'm big framed and tall, and she was little with the perfect little body and the perfect little bubble butt. But that's not the whole point of this. The point of this was we were roommates. I was supposed to have surgery first because I was living as a woman already when we met, and it had been my lifelong dream, and it had not been her lifelong dream. She just made that decision later on. It was something that evolved with her. It wasn't something that she sought after from the time she can remember like I had. But then plans changed, and being the boss she was, the bossy person she was, she went first 6 months before I did. I helped her. I helped her through her convalescent time. And of course, she had to act like she was dying. It was just laid up in the bed. Somebody taking care of her hand and foot. And then something happened to cause a rift between us. I was dating this guy, and he did not know that I was trans. So we weren't having sexual relations. She come in from work one night after she had surgery, and she got undressed and put on a little baby doll short kind of a nightgown without the panties that went with it, and came into where we were watching television and bent over so that he could see her pussy from behind. And then turned around and says, "So you're gonna fuck him?" Right in front of him. I was really upset because she knew I couldn't. So I was upset, so I went to the bathroom. When I come back, they were laying on the sectional sofa, just making out like crazy. And they got up and went to her bedroom and had the loudest sex all night long. I mean, I wasn't in love with the guy, but gosh, I mean, that was like a slap in the face. It hurt my feelings so bad. And I learned something that night, that I would never trust another trans person as long as I lived. Well, it wasn't long after that, because she knew I was upset with her, that she moved out. Well, she made the mistake of coming back one day to get the rest of her things while my mother was there. And my mother let her have it. My mother said, "I knew you when you wasn't nothing but a short-haired little boy. And you're going to do this to Diana whenever she's just now getting ready to go have her surgery." I was living alone now, having to get ready to go and have my surgery, to come back and live alone and take care of myself. She said, "You're going to let your mama talk to me that way?" I said, "She's talking to you a lot better than I feel like talking to you." So this is to you, Anastasia. I'm sure you've been able to have lots of plastic surgery and facelifts and all that kind of stuff. But I bet you still would like to have my face. Good night, everybody.